Hey viewers, George here, new first impression talking a bit on Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate Demo, special demo for the Nintendo 3DS. Going into this, I've played I technically played a few Monster Hunter games, but it was just three, but I've played like the Wii one and then the remake that they did for the Wii U. So technically I've only played one Monster Hunter game, but I did like it. The concept was really cool of Monster Hunter. If you never played the series, I don't blame you. It doesn't seem like a very a series that's, you know, easy to get. I haven't seen a whole lot of this series on a lot of other consoles. It wasn't until the Wii game came out and I'm like, oh, I've heard people talk about this. So I guess it was mostly on like the PlayStation portable systems and stuff like that, which I rarely ever care for unless it was, Kingdom Hearts or some shit like that. So anyways, if you've never heard of this series, essentially it's pretty much an action game, an action-adventure game where you take on missions that you can go for, and they essentially have you go around, you hunt monsters, as the title suggests. But the neat thing is, when you kill the monsters, you can actually like harvest them and like take materials from the dead monster and use them to make your weapons better and like create a bunch of weapons and armors and stuff like that, which is a really neat idea. I really like that. It just makes it seem a much more interesting, kind of like it brings in that RPG kind of element that fuck, what was that game called? Oh, it's gonna bug the crap out of me because it's the only H-Tech game that I really cared for. Eternal Ring, I think it might have been, or something like that. I don't know. I reviewed it at one point. Might have been Evergrace or whatever, but like essentially the RPG element in this is just, better weapons and better armor that you can craft by killing monsters and stuff like that you do in missions, and that's really cool. And what I always liked about the series is that there's the multiplayer, especially on the Wii U version, which was online and it worked a hell of a lot better than it would on the Wii if it did have an online multiplayer, which I don't know if it did. So I always found it really cool, and you would face off against like some smaller monsters, but a lot of times a lot of the missions would have you kill these really huge, gigantic creatures that were just, its own boss battle essentially. But there were tons of these things, and like each one was different. There was like a strategy to defeating them, and like the really cool thing is, if you were to say if you're facing off with a monster and it had like this, kind of a tail, like a spike ball tail on the end of it or some shit like that. If you just kept hammering away at that tail, eventually that tail would just like break off or whatever. Like, you would take away the tail, which means you would take away that monster's like one of its moves or attacks that it could have done with that tail. So it was a really cool way to strategize about killing these monsters rather than just hitting it constantly until it dies. There was more of a strategy to it, and it looked really awesome. Like, you could see the damage you were inflicting on these creatures. So when I played that back on the Wii, and more so played the remake that was on the Wii U, I really enjoyed it. I was like, this is really cool. I'd love to play it with some friends. So finally, Monster Hunter 4, which was coming out for the 3DS, but it's basically like a flagship game for the new 3DS XL that's coming out, because it takes advantage of some of those controls as well, but it does work on the normal 3DS, so don't worry about that. I got a couple special demos, so I handed one out to Dylan, so me and him could try the online. He was really interested in this game, so we anyways got to try the online, and god damn it, this game's so much fun. That's where I was getting with this. The game is a lot of fun, and my god, does it work it has a lot of pluses, like a lot of pros that Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate has, but there are a couple of cons, and it's mostly just due to the limitations that it kind of has set itself with working on the 3DS. So, one of the biggest problems with this game is the fucking camera. My god. If you ever do play this game, preferably play it either on the new 3DS XL that's going to be coming out in February, or with a Circle Pad Pro, because trying to control the camera with the D-pad is the most frustrating thing in the world. And I mean, yeah, you can, constantly center focus it by pressing both L and R buttons down, but it still feels very finicky, and this game is definitely one of those games where you would preferably want to have that free range control over it, where a second stick certainly comes in handy, almost necessary in some cases. So that's one of its biggest problems. Another flaw about this game, I don't know if they probably will. I would hope they would have something like this in the final version. But as for the special demo itself, there's no way of communicating with people online. And even, I'll get to that, making a freaking room in a second. That was just atrociously silly. But there's like no way to use the mic that is already built into the system. Oh, I plugged it in, it's all the way over there. Because on all the 3DSs there is the built-in microphone, and it just boggles my mind that not a lot of games seem to be using it as a way to communicate with it, because it is a decent mic if you ever used it in other programs that actually do utilize it. It's a decent mic, and it would definitely work with online communication, especially considering for a 3DS game where if you've played like any other 3DS game, and most people will agree with me on this, the online connectivity is very iffy in some cases. Super Smash Brothers on the 3DS, that was finicky sometimes. I remember I was playing a game with Dylan, who lives in the same city as me, and we were having problems trying to connect online. And then sometimes I'd be playing with someone who's probably like in the US, and it would work a bit better. So it was very like iffy if it would work and if it didn't. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate works beautifully well online. I could not notice any lag whatsoever on my end, and as far as Dylan's told me, he didn't notice anything on his end. So that's really cool. I really like that. God knows why it works really good there. I don't know, but it worked fantastic, and it just made the game that much more enjoyable to play. So that's a really cool thing. But the fact that you couldn't communicate using the microphone at all or something like that, like a built-in chat system, is a little disappointing. I really hope the full version does have some sort of implications of that, because it would make the experience that much more enjoyable and perhaps a tad less frustrating in some certain instances, cases, events, and whatever. Like for instance, we were playing and we were facing off with this creature by this cliff, and I accidentally was, knocked off the cliff. So once I fallen, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to make my way back up. I have to go through a couple of rooms, and by the time I got up there, apparently the monster, the fight went off the cliff. So I had to go back down the fucking cliff. It's like, if there was some sort of chat system, I would have been told that the monster was on its way down, and I could have just stayed there instead of wasting my time going up. It's those little things, and also, considering the element of the online cooperative thing, I mean, chatting and being able to communicate with your team, kind of an essential thing when you think about it, like, coordinating what you're gonna do, like, okay guys, let's all attack, this part, and try and, eliminate this, instead of, everyone just going where they can. I don't know, that's just how I see it. Other cons to this before I get to the plethora of pros to this game. The other downside to this game, fuck, what was it? Oh yeah, the rooms. Creating a room. So, within the demo, you had to be on the same difficulty, which I guess makes sense, because obviously, you know, it makes sense. You want to make sure everyone's on the same difficulty. Okay, so you go to create a room. Apparently, you're given the option to create a password, which of course makes sense. You don't want unwanted visitors coming in. But you also need to give the people who you want to invite into the room the ID tag for that room, so they would enter it and then they would automatically join it with the password system, which kind of defeats the point of having a password system to begin with if you have the ID tag that they have to input, which is like a 14-digit thing, and I mean, entering, you know, numbers, it just seems really ludicrous. And it's just like, why not just have, like, you know, a bunch of things that are there, or like, you know, people can see if there's rooms created by their friends on their friends list, because that's something the 3DS does have that can be utilized. I don't know, it just seems really tedious to try and set all that stuff up and get people to join, but it could be a lot simpler and more straightforward. So there's that. It just, you know, it seems really unnecessary. Is there anything else I have to complain about? I don't think so. I mean, some sort of minor things that kind of make sense, like, characters with heavier weapons are obviously going to move slower, painfully slow in some cases. You know, obviously that makes sense, but I mean, it just seems like a thing that I should probably mention at some point. Pros! Let's talk about the pros. The 3D in this game, you know, when you're talking about 3DS games, discussing the 3D element in a game kind of just seems like a tacked on concept by this point. It's just like, oh yeah, 3D, it works, whatever. But this game looks really good in 3D. You turn the 3D on, it's just like, wow. It looks really neat for some reason. I can't explain it. I've played a lot of 3D platformers, or like 3D games that where you move in a 3D world, and this game looks really good with that 3D on. So, probably another reason to get the new 3DS and play this game on it, considering the 3D is much more improved on that system, compared to this and the 3D XL. The new 3DS one looks probably more promising to play that kind of stuff on. But it looks really good in 3D. It's definitely a game where you want to play in 3D because it looks so nice and to play it. Controls work really well. You know, you got your circle pad to move around. X brings out your weapon and is also one of your attack buttons when the weapon's out. So is A. B is your rolling and jumping. Y puts the weapon away if you have it out. And also, when you don't have weapon on, you can use the items that you have selected. Shoulder buttons do stuff like holding down the L button allows you to see what items you have and like bringing them up into the little item slot. And also you have touchscreen that you can use as well if you're into that stuff. So that's some good things. The controls work really nicely. I had no problems with it, other than the camera controls. The camera controls are absolutely abysmal, to say the least. So definitely play this with a Circle Pad Pro or something like that, because you kind of need that to make it a much more enjoyable experience. Other cool things about this game, like I mentioned, if you played any other games in the series, you'll feel right at home with this. They have said they gotten rid of the underwater swimming segments, which I didn't get a chance to actually try it in the previous game, but it didn't seem like anything that'd be really enjoyable from what I saw of it. So I'm kind of glad about that, because I don't know, it just doesn't seem really cool. I mean, it is cool, but at the same time, it kind of seems really I don't know, probably wouldn't control as well as you would think it would. I don't know. Saying that quite a bit. Oh, what else? Online works fantastically, as I said. Music, It's there. It sets the mood right, but it doesn't, take the forefront in this game. But it works. It gels with everything. The environments will look really nice. Like I said, the 3D looks nice in it, and it's because of the way the environments are and how everything seems to be spaced. It looks really good. That's another thing. Compared to other Monster Hunter games I've played, there seems to be a lot more open areas within each of the rooms, within the maps. I can't say for sure if it's positive or if I'm correct about that, but it just seems more roomy. Like there's a lot of space to traverse. So take that as you will. Map system in this one's a little confusing compared to the other ones. Probably because they're slightly more bigger. Like the 2 missions you get in this demo, they played on fairly big maps. I think they're probably the same maps, to be honest. But they're pretty big, and it's one of those things where you kind of need a pointer to tell you where to fucking go with some of these. Which is only offered in the beginner's difficulty and not the experienced difficulty. It just seems something that's kind of necessary to kind of point you in the right direction in this huge, vast space that will probably seem very unfamiliar to you, especially if you haven't played a Monster Hunter game. But on this one, more so because of, smaller screens and stuff like that. What else? Not a whole lot else to talk about. This is a pretty good special demo, demonstrates everything really well. And it makes me very excited to play this game when it comes out. For sure. Anything else I have to add about this? Definitely get this game. This is a very fun and enjoyable game. If you've never played a Monster Hunter game, certainly try this. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a public demo that's going to be coming out, if not this week, probably the following week for sure. Definitely try this. You're going to love this game. If you were interested in this, bottom line, just fucking try this game. I don't know if they're going to release a console version of Monster Hunter 4. I would imagine they would, but I can't say I've heard anything about it. So take that as you will. But yeah, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, the demo makes me really want to buy this game even more than I did before. And not only that, the demo was able to convince Dylan, who before I tried to convince him to buy Monster Hunter 3 when that came out, and he was very like, I don't know if I really would like to try this game. He played this demo, he thoroughly enjoyed it. So take that as you will. This has converted a non-believer, as it would be. So yeah. Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. The demo is fantastic. Excited for the game. I've mentioned that multiple times. Online works fantastically. It's gorgeous in 3D, which is such a rare thing to say. I'm so happy to say that. Camera, online, fantastic. So, yeah. With that all said and done, until next time, keep on gaming.